Okay, welcome. We are going to look today at specifically about alcoholic families. Okay, so there are many unhealthy families, but families where there is an alcoholic has very specific dynamics, and it is a problem that is going on worldwide. It doesn't matter which country you go, the one place it's worse than the other. And I think the level of alcoholics in a nation or in a culture is a quite good reflection of actually how healthy or unhealthy that whole culture is. Okay, so we're going to look at specifically alcoholic families, as wherever you go, you will meet them. And there are very specific needs when you reach out to somebody from an alcoholic family. Okay? So let's look at some of the rules of the alcoholic family. The first rule is that the dependent's use of alcohol, that's the alcoholic's use of alcohol, is the most important thing in the whole family's life. Okay? So, which is already important to realize, no matter which addiction we are addicted to, that addiction becomes the core issue of the addict's life. It will be the number one time-consuming issue, and ultimately, the more far an addiction develops, everything in that person's life starts turning around that addiction. So I always ask people, if you want to know what your addiction is, just start checking how many hours a day you use on different things. What is the very thing that you use most time for? Okay? If you ask that today at many youths, it will be online gaming, social media, and those are very big addiction issues, very serious. And there are new addictions that, I would advise, I don't know if there is anyone there that has Netflix. You might not have access. If you have access to Netflix anywhere, or otherwise try to see if you can get the documentary, The Social Dilemma. It's a Netflix documentary, and it's really stunning to see that the documentary is made by former employees, even in quite high levels, from Facebook, from Google, from Twitter, and they explain how they make all these gadgets and like all their the little tools in their apps to keep people's attention, so that people will not be able to let go of the app. Sometimes maybe you go to Facebook. You have Facebook account?
Yeah, sure.
Now, often you will go to Facebook because you want to quickly check up something. And you find yourself an hour later still on Facebook, and you have been looking at all kind of posts and responding to all kind of people of all kind of things you never intended to do.
Yeah.
And you have just wasted an hour or 2 hours, and the things you were supposed to do, you have not done. Now, there are very deliberate ways how they have made Facebook so that you will not leave Facebook, that you will keep on replying and keep on scrolling even when you don't want to. And these apps are built for that, intentionally. They have studied people's psychology and used that against you to hook you, because ultimately you are their product. They're not selling you any product. You are their product. They are taking your time to sell advertisements. So you are not allowed to leave Facebook, because otherwise they cannot push enough advertisements to you. and they steal all your information, which you're not aware of. Everything you do, every behavior you have, like for example, the kind of comments you make, the kind of posts you look at, which one you skip through, which one you stay on, they know exactly your emotional mood. Okay? And when you are depressed, suddenly you will get advertisements just on that. Within half an hour, you start getting advertisements that are related to your mood. Because they are very smart in detecting what state you are in, what interest you have at that moment, and start pushing you exactly those advertisements that fit with that. Okay, and Google does that as well. And let me tell you, nowadays, if you don't feel well emotionally, don't go to your doctor. Call Google. They will tell you what is your issue. They know more than your medical doctor. Because they are studying your life for years that you are online. And they know more about you than you are aware of yourself. And that is a scary place. Okay? And so that is how they hook people. They hook the youths these days in a tremendous way. Okay? So that's the social media addiction. But every addiction functions like that. Okay? So with alcoholism, it's not different. And ultimately, it's the whole family that has to abide and be surrounded around that addiction. Everything that the family does or does not do or avoid to do is because of the addiction. The second rule is that alcohol is not the cause of the family's problem. Now, of course, any outsider coming in the family that would be allowed, I mean, nobody is allowed, but let's say you could secretly look into the family, into an alcoholic family, everybody from the outside will say, alcohol is the problem here. But within that family, none of the family members is allowed to mention alcohol. Don't dare to say that alcohol is the problem of the family, because then there is war in the house. Okay? So like there is an elephant in the room, but you are allowed to talk about everything, but don't mention the elephant, because the elephant is not the problem that the room is too full. Okay? So the next rule is that someone or something else has caused the alcoholic's dependency. The alcoholic is never responsible for his behavior. Okay? So, you know, problem solving by blaming, that is actually the core of this rule. And the alcoholic is not the problem. He is not responsible. It is because of what people have done to him. It's because of the circumstances he was in, or she, but it's most times a he, but it can be she as well. A woman, there's also a woman who are addict. And so don't blame the alcoholic, because, you know, just you must understand the alcoholic's problems. You know, the problems around that person that he went through, that is what causes all the problems. Okay, so the alcoholic is never responsible. And of course, you can understand that recovery starts at the point where the alcoholic becomes responsible. And he says, okay, I'm taking responsibility. Now, the next one is, the next rule is that the status quo must be maintained at all costs. Okay? So in other words, on the outside, the family must look perfect. So in other words, the children are never allowed to speak outside of the problems of that is going on in their house. Often children in an alcoholic home will never take friends to their house. You know, I don't know if you have, I don't know, when you were growing up, was there in your school or anywhere among your friends, anyone that you know had an alcoholic in the family?
No.
Okay. Because most times, if you have such a friend, then it's the very friend that never asks you to come to his house, but always wants to come over to your house or meet at any other place. But he will always smartly avoid you never to come to his house, unless maybe he knows that the alcoholic is not at home, and then maybe you can come. Okay, so, and then, for example, if an alcoholic, if the alcoholic maybe was very drunk the night before, and in the morning has a bad hangover, the wife of the alcoholic most times will call the boss of the company, maybe where the alcoholic works, and makes an excuse and says, oh, he has the flu, or, mentions any kind of disease, not alcohol, to say that the alcoholic is sick.
Yeah.
Okay, if the alcoholic has been vomiting in the night, it is most times the spouse that cleans up all the dirty mess, because the house must look neat and clean, and everybody sweeps everything around the alcoholic clean, okay, and resolves all the mess he makes, because the status quo of the family must be upheld. Okay, so that is another big issue in the alcoholic family. The family must look perfect. And so that resolves to the next rule: everybody in the family must be an enabler. Now, an enabler is the one who makes it possible for the alcoholic to remain alcoholic. Okay? So in other words, an enabler resolves all the mess and all the problems. Often it is in an alcoholic family, it would actually be more helpful if the family members of the alcoholic, when he has vomited and is laying in his own vomit, to just leave him laying in his own vomit till he wakes up and let him clean up his own vomit instead of cleaning it up for him. Okay? When his boss calls why he has not come to work, well, give the phone to the alcoholic and say, you answer your boss. I'm not answering for you. You understand? But the problem is that most times an alcoholic, of course, nobody becomes an alcoholic overnight. It comes forth out of an unhealthy way of life, an unhealthy way already from growing up. So the one who is alcoholic most times gets married to somebody who is already a codependent person. A codependent person is somebody who is already emotionally depending on, most times, a particular addicted person. So somehow, it would go too far to explain that in this session, but those who are addict or have addictive tendencies most times get married to somebody who has actually codependent tendencies. Okay? And that forms a very unhealthy marriage. Okay, so that is why if anyone has problems in his own life, my advice is always just resolve your problems first before you start thinking of getting a girlfriend, or for a girl, a boyfriend, because as long as you have not resolved your own issues, you will choose the wrong person. Okay? But once you have resolved your own issues in your own life, you will choose a different kind of person, and you will choose a healthy person and get most probably a good marriage. Okay? But that was your topic last week.
Yeah.
The next rule is that no one may discuss what is really going on in the family. They are not allowed within the family to talk about it with one another, and surely not to people outside. Okay, so now not to speak to the outside world about the issues in the home is because the status quo must be maintained. You know, you cannot show that there is a problem in the family, but they will not even allow themselves within the family to talk about the issues. Okay, that is one of those things. If somebody in the family tries to do that, to bring up any of the issues, most times he can receive a lot of anger and frustration, because you have to keep quiet, and this has a very deep impact on anyone growing up in an alcoholic family, and causes a very deep loneliness and a very deep distrust. Now, trust issues go very deep in an alcoholic family. And so the next rule is no one may say what he or she is really feeling. Now, in the alcoholic family, you are not allowed to have your personal feelings. You are not allowed to have your personal thoughts. You're not allowed to have your personal intuition. You must abide by the family rules. And so the rules in the alcoholic family are very rigid. Now, these rules have a very deep impact. And the specific set of these rules makes that somebody or a child growing up in an alcoholic's family never grows matured. Okay, so children growing up in an alcoholic family are called adult children of alcoholics. Okay, so you will surely in the future hear about this term, adult children of alcoholics. Because the children, their body grows into an adult, but emotionally and spiritually, they are completely like little children. And so often you will see very childish behavior in somebody who grows up in an alcoholic home, which causes often a lot of anger from people outside, especially when they don't understand it. And that is why if you want to reach out to people from such a family, you have to understand the consequences that they are struggling with in their life. Okay, so you will respond differently to it than what most people do. Okay. So of course I will give you this video as well, but I would advise you just, copy these things, make a list for yourself. Okay, so that whenever you meet somebody, or in your outreach, you meet somebody from an alcoholic family, go through your list, and try to recognize those things in a person's life, and then, with love and care, minister to that person. Okay, but never blame the person, because the person didn't cause the problems. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing is that other children of alcoholics always guess at what is right and what is normal. You see, that in an alcoholic's home, there is no thing that is right and there is no thing that is normal. What is right to do today is wrong tomorrow, because it all depends on the alcoholic's mood. What is right to do in an alcoholic's home, it just depends on the situation today, and when tomorrow's situation is different, all the values change, everything how you do change, and you have to pick up very quick how you have to respond. So there is no set boundaries of what is right and what is wrong. So a child growing up in an alcoholic home has no clue about what is right and what is normal. Okay. So I had one time a lady in a school, and I was teaching, and she had grown up in a very abusive home, also alcoholic family. And so she had gotten a boyfriend, and she had no idea what was normal for her boyfriend to ask from her in the sexual area. Okay, so of course you know God's standards in his words. You know, before marriage there is no such thing as sex. Okay,
Yeah.
and even when it comes, okay, maybe there are a little bit cultural differences about what is considered appropriate before marriage or not. That also has to do with cultural standards, that what is actually causing attraction within a culture in people's way of thinking. So you cannot set one standard all over the world, because the standard would be appropriate in one place and very inappropriate in another place. But that there is at least a standard in the Bible. There is a clear standard that the Lord gives. But since he grew up in an alcoholic home, no standard was ever given. Yes, so she came to me when I was teaching about this, and she started telling me, Ansel, I have a boyfriend, and she started mentioning a whole list of things regarding sexual behavior that her boyfriend was asking from her. Well, they were not married. And she said, yeah, Ansel, where is the healthy boundary? I said, every single issue that you are mentioning is already far above and beyond, even when you are married. Even when you are married, all the things you are mentioning are not normal sexual behavior. They're all very strange and unhealthy sexual behavior. They're like perverted ways of thinking. These are things based on pornography, on really a sick mind. And so she was completely amazed, like, huh? Is nothing of this normal? I said, no, nothing of it is normal. But for her, that was never a standard. So she had from young age already been sexually abused as well, because the parents didn't mind if other men were touching her and doing things with her. So, you know, just to have that idea, somebody from an alcoholic family can be completely without any sense of what is healthy, what is unhealthy, what is normal or not. Okay? Then adult children of alcoholics have difficulty following a project through from the beginning to the end. Okay, now, many people struggle with procrastination. You know, you have to finish something and to get things ready on time. But somebody coming from an alcoholic home has two reasons why they never manage to finish things. In the first place, the alcoholic parent is always busy with his addiction. The other parent is most times busy with resolving all the problems around the addiction. And so nobody has time for the children. And so the children actually most times have to do all kind of roles of the parents, in particularly the oldest child. And so nobody ever helps the children to finish a project. Okay, so you just, if it becomes too hard, well, you just give up. Then on the other hand, alcoholics in general have this behavior of having very big ideas. Of course, the ideas are always far above and beyond what is possible or what is normal to start with, which actually is just a disguise of not having to do anything. You know, when I come with a project that is obtainable, that means you have to start doing it and you have to finish it, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if I come with a very big project, you know, I think big, But in order for the big thing to happen, I need to have certain conditions in place first. And those conditions never get in place. So I always have an excuse that my plan was good. I had great ideas, but the conditions the conditions were the problem. You blame your conditions. And if just the conditions had been right, we had done this amazing, awesome thing, but we never did anything. You understand? And of course, it is just a disguise to draw attention away from the addiction, but the intention is never to start anything for real. So a child growing up in this environment always gets used to think big, but do nothing. So even if you start with something, how to finish it or how to move forward with it the moment it gets a little bit difficult, they have no idea because they never learn. Okay? Nobody has ever sat down with them to make a plan and follow up the plan till the end and succeed. So the lives of alcoholics and the family members of alcoholics is full of good plans that all have failed. Now, this next one is one that often brings a lot of anger and frustration by people around an alcoholic. Adult children of alcoholics lie when it would just be as easy to tell the truth. Now, I already told you before, they guess at what is right or normal. Okay, so already there is no framework of safety and of understanding. By the way, when it comes to knowing what is right and what is normal, there's Psalm 23, when the Lord leads us into green pastures, that is a set, like a protected area, as I shared before, which is also basically, it cuts out a lot of things that are not healthy. Okay? So clear boundaries are actually very important for every child. And those boundaries are supposed to be always in the same place by God's standards. Boundaries are not supposed to shift depending on the mood or the circumstance. Okay? What is good today, tomorrow, and next week. What is bad today, tomorrow, and still next week. There should not be a change in it. Okay? Or there has to be a very clear reason. For example, if somebody, normally, of course, sugar is never healthy, but normally you can eat a little bit of sugar without negative consequences. But let's say now you get diabetes, suddenly you're not allowed to eat sugar anymore. Okay, the boundary changes, but there is a clear reason for it. You fell sick, you got a certain sickness. Okay, so for a boundary change, there has to be a clear reason. But in an alcoholic family, they change without reason. Or it is just the emotion of the alcoholic. Now, so already there is no context for an adult child of alcoholics to live in. The world is already a confusion. And the problem is that if you make a mistake in the alcoholic's family, you get all the anger of the whole and all the frustration of the whole family over you. So everything, frustration that has built up that day will be unleashed on the person who dares to make a mistake. So you always try to excuse yourself. You always tell just a story, and everybody within the alcoholic's family must always tell lies outside of the family to uphold the status quo of the family, to make the family look good. So a child growing up in an alcoholic family has learned that it is good to lie. You must lie. So to speak a lie is not at all a problem or something negative in the eyes of somebody who grew up in an alcoholic family. And lying becomes such a normal part of life that even when they can just as well speak the truth, when the truth even is nothing negative, they will still share a lie. Okay? Then adult children of alcoholics judge themselves always without mercy. Okay? Okay, so they judge themselves without mercy. Okay, because there is no mercy in an alcoholic's home. Okay, so for a child in an alcoholic's family, there is no way to be good enough. Because problem resolving is only done by blaming someone. So every child in an alcoholic home is used to being blamed for everything. So they never get a compliment. So they only see themselves as negative. And so they just judge themselves. Everything that goes wrong around them, they always blame themselves, because that's what always has been done. And as a consequence of that, adult children of alcoholics have really a difficulty having fun. Having fun is only entitled to the alcoholic. The alcoholic can have fun as much as he or she wants, but the rest of the family has no right to have fun. Life is that serious in the alcoholic home. And so the children growing up in that home take themselves very, very seriously. Okay? And that's, of course, when you are not allowed to have fun, you don't know how to have fun, everything becomes serious. You know, you always have to tiptoe around. You have to always be aware that you don't anger anyone, that you don't make mistakes. Okay. Oh, I see that the next ones don't go nice. I have somehow a problem in my presentation, but okay. The next ones, you see them all at once already. Alcoholics, adult children of alcoholics have difficulty with intimate relationships. Okay. Now, you need to realize they already never were allowed to bring any friends home. Because if you bring a friend home, you know, the family the friend might find out about the problems in the home, and that's not allowed to happen. So anyways, a child growing up in an alcoholic's home never had close friendships. And nowadays, these children mainly have online friendships, you know, because that is the safest way, because then you can have friends without that they come to your house. But as we know, online friendships through online gaming or through Facebook or whatever, those are not real friends. Those are fake friends. They don't care anything about you because they never know you for real. So that they never know how to allow somebody to come close to them, because the things that really go on in the life of a child growing up in an alcoholic home are the very things you are not allowed to share anyways. You're not allowed to share about the problems in your house. So you have to hide that. So you have to make a fake image, a fake presentation of yourself and of your family. And you have to keep that up by all means. So in other words, all the friends a child from an alcoholic family has are friends to the fake image that the child keeps up. They're not real friends. You understand? They are friends of the fake image. And so that there is no intimacy in the friendships of somebody growing up in an alcoholic home. So the moment somebody comes too close, you know, when somebody really wants a close friendship, that becomes very scary and dangerous, and then that person is pushed away because that's not allowed. Okay, and anyways, in the alcoholic home, when you do something good, you are loved the one day, and you are anyways, when you make a next mistake, you are rejected the next day. So there is always the fear of being rejected anyways. Then the next one is that children growing up in alcoholic homes overreact to changes over which they have no control. You see, for any child growing up in an alcoholic home, they have to try to always be in control. You know, try to control your environment so no unexpected things will happen. Okay, or at least when you see something coming, try to plan for it. So the moment you change something that the person has no control over, that person will panic. You know, the adult child of the alcoholic. Okay, because when there is a situation in the house of the alcoholic, those are the worst moments, you know, when things are going on in the alcoholic's home that they have no control over. That's like the most traumatic moments. So you have to avoid those traumatic moments at all costs. That's a survival tactic. Okay. Now, another one is that alcoholic children of adult children of alcoholics constantly seek approval and affirmation. Now, I already mentioned this to you yesterday. You know, approval and affirmation in a healthy way, you know, is one of the desires of the soul, is that you are approved and get affirmed by who you are. You know, when God the Father, when Jesus was baptized, came through the Holy Spirit in the dove down, and God the Father said, "This is my Son in whom I'm well pleased." That was before Jesus started his ministry. So God made very clear, I'm pleased in Jesus, not for what he is going to do, but for whom he is. And what I do cannot add anything to it, because God's love and affirmation is already complete. And when something is complete, how can I add anything to it? You see, my walking with the Lord is my gratitude, is my thankfulness for his complete affirmation, for whom I am. So I don't have to do things to add to that, but I'm happy to do things. Okay? Now, the problem in the alcoholic home is that there is zero approval for anyone for who they are. Approval or disapproval, affirmation or rejection goes by what you do only. So an adult child of alcoholics is not a human being. He behaves like a human doing. All the time trying to do things to receive approval and affirmation for what they do. Always looking at the beliefs and the opinions of other people. And it can be very tiring for friends around them. Okay, and there is no amount of affirmation that you give by everything they try to do that will ever be enough for them. And if you fail to approve or give affirmations one time, they immediately take that as rejection. Okay? And then the adult children of alcoholics always feel that they are different from other people. You know, they are not the same. Nothing in their family is the same as outside. And that is what a message that is given every day in the alcoholics family. When any of the children in the alcoholics family says, yeah, but my friends, they do this and this in their house. then the parents will say, yeah, but that's their house. We are different. We are not the same. That's what the child in an alcoholic home gets to hear every day. We are not the same. You are not the same. We are different. And in that way, they isolate their own family. Okay? So, and anyways, the chaos within the family is often so big, there is not any time or energy anyways to relate to people outside the family. Okay? And that would require, again, such a setup to cover all the problems in the family that you better don't start at it. Now, then the next set is that adult children of alcoholics are either super responsible or super irresponsible. There is no in between, and that counts for everything in their life. You know, in an alcoholic's family, it's all or nothing, and most times that ends up being nothing. Okay, everything is black and white. So you see that often in the children, and then most times is the oldest child that is super responsible, like doing everything, all the parents' tasks. And the second one doesn't even try to catch up with that and is most times the super irresponsible child. But it's always an extreme. There is no moderate thinking. There is no, you know, balance in anything. And in that, you get the next one as well. Adults, children of alcoholics are extremely loyal, even in the face of the evidence that loyalty is not deserved. You see, everybody can see that the alcoholic is causing big troubles in the family, but there is an iron rule: you must be loyal to the alcoholic. And if you dare not to be loyal to the alcoholic, is that, you know, hell breaks loose. So that is so engrinded in the mind of a child growing up in an alcoholic family, that even if that child is severely abused, maybe even outside the family, you know, and I've seen this. I have seen children who were sexually abused, and they defended the abuser. They made the abuser almost to get away of the abuse. Actually, in one particular case, it was that somebody else, another child, was abused, and that child spoke up. But I know that a child that came from an alcoholic family was also abused, but he was denying. No, he never touched me, he never did anything. But I knew he comes from an alcoholic family, and he had learned that no, you must be loyal even to the person who abused you, because he also said some nice things, of course. You understand? So since the person who abused this boy gave some love, in quote, you know, because that's not real love, it's manipulation. But to that boy, those kind of nice words that abuser said was so important that he was ready to defend the abuser to any extent. Now, of course, we stopped the abuse and we took the abuser away. But, you know, you will probably experience it sometimes in your life. And so if you know that something in this kind of regard is going on, and you know that the child that probably is abused comes from an alcoholic home, then even if that child says nothing happened, don't take that child on his words, because he will anyways defend an abuser no matter what, because that's how he is conditioned in growing up. Okay? You have to dig deeper and find out in different ways what really has been going on. Okay, so it is often children from alcoholic families that gets most severely abused, because they're the ones, of course, that are picked on, because they know they are easy targets. Okay, and it's very sad, because these children already have so much pain in their life, and then gets on top of that even worse abused. And then the last one is that adult children of alcoholics are impulsive. You see, in an alcoholic home, you have to make quick decisions at the spur of the moment because of a situation that comes up, and you do never think things through properly. You don't count the cost before you start something. Okay, when it looks good, you just start. And then when it gets tough, well, you just give up. And you blame something. You blame someone or something around that you couldn't finish it. Okay? So that they don't calculate the cost in advance. They don't think in advance. When it looks good, you move ahead, and when it doesn't look good, you just don't do anything. You can never predict an outcome anyways in an alcoholic family. So they don't know how to do that. So often you will find people that have grown up in an alcoholic family. They make loads of very bad decisions. You say like, how can you decide? How can you do that? Don't you know the consequence if you do this? Have you not thought 5 minutes further? You know, please don't blame them that way, because they will feel even worse. Okay? It's better to sit down with them and help them and teach them to think things through. You know, help them to sit down and say, okay, if you have this plan, let us sit down, let us write down all the steps, how to get from A to B. You know, what are the things you need? What are the steps to take? You know, like help them to make a whole plan and then help them to follow it through. You know, and help them to stop doing impulsive things. But it's often a very troublesome thing. Okay? And the impulsiveness, of course, has to do also with not ending any project ever or never finishing anything properly. Okay. So do you have any question till this point?
No,